talking a little bit about labor, obviously labor very strongly behind issue 5. Was there any outreach to organized labor from the issue 6 group at the beginning? I mean, they talk that this is about economic development and regionalism, but yet organized labor wasn't a part of issue 6. How does that happen?
Well, what happened is I read in the newspaper that Bill Mason had been meeting with Ed Crawford, Umberto Fideli, and I think Malachi Mixon, 3 well-known Republican fundraisers. And the same article said it was interesting. This is the Plain Dealer now telling us that labor had not been brought on board, and he had been meeting for several months with his good friends. That he referred to them as his good friends, and that there was another group meeting, and this was I believe this was in April of this year, and so I was like, oh, that's the first I heard of this, and then I guess at some point the 2 groups merged. The good government people, the regionalism good government people merged with the Mason people, and they started meeting as one group. And then there was never any invitation to organized labor at any time by that group. Marcia Fudge held a press conference in, I believe, late May, or mid-May, maybe it was mid-May, and sort of blew the whole thing open and said, if this is going to happen, then it needs to be more inclusive. And she is the one who invited other people. Just she took it upon herself to open up the process. And several of us met a couple of times with these people who, it was admittedly in the post-11th hour. It was like the 11th hour and 58 seconds. And their proposal was done, but they were at this point, because of what Congresswoman Fudge had done, they felt they had to, at this point, open the process up, and so they were very willing to do some horse trading on things that weren't key fundamental elements of their proposal. It was clearly a done deal by that point, but they were also very anxious to get last-minute support. And so the short answer is they never did come officially to labor. Now, they claimed that people from unions had been invited to earlier meetings. And I believe what happened is that when they tried, well, they never did, I was never called. But I know, for instance, when it comes to the African-American community, they called some of the leaders who didn't call them back. And so then they called other people, and then they called other people, and I think that's, but at no time, I mean, the proposal was fundamentally developed by a very small group of homogeneous people, and then kind of shown, to others, and that was supposed to be inclusive. I heard Marty Zanotti say that 100 people had been involved. There's no way that happened. I would say it was less than a dozen who put this whole thing together.
If you talk to people on the street, the general consensus is that 5 is the Democratic side, 6 is the Republican side. The Republicans clearly pushing 6. They're not necessarily on board with 5. I think a lot of folks feel like this is a chance for them to get themselves back into some power in the county, and whether or not that would actually happen is almost irrelevant. What do you think about the whole thought that they'd be promoting issue 6 without any real thought? It's just like they're pushing, we need this reform, we need it today, we can't wait another year. How do you speak to critics who would say, we can't wait? And I know I've heard, there are Democratic members in that group who've even said and done mailings saying we can't wait another year for this to be done correctly.
So this is an opportunity, right? We get that there's cynicism, distrust around county government, right? Issue 5 is an opportunity to do it right. It really is the difference between real reform done right versus bad reform done quickly. And so this is assuming we create some charter either this year or next year, this is a charter that's going to be around for a long, long time. Our goal is that we create something that will work, that will be flexible, will be efficient, and that will we're not going to have to come back and mess around with in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Their charter is really flawed. Their issue 6 charter is really flawed. And it just I don't know if you read the Plain Dealer this morning, that issue 6 raised over $650,000, I think, and 90% of it came from really wealthy individuals and corporations. Well, just take that $650,000 and double it, or put it aside and put it in a little trust fund. And when their charter gets created, there will be one county executive who will now be the most important person in Cuyahoga County. You take all that 650, you double it, you triple it, whatever, from the same group of people, and all of that money can go into developing a race, buying that county executive, because there's no campaign finance limits in their charter. So you think about if you want to create a system that is fair and balanced and honest and not corrupt, then you need campaign finance in a charter. Theirs has none of it, and it's the people who are going to benefit most from that who are so far pushing issue 6.
So no limits at all for
no
those.
limits at all.
With your question, your original question was about we have to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that speaks to the, Mike mentioned cynicism. It's very cynical that they are insisting that this be done now because they know good and well that the corruption scandal is going to fuel an otherwise an electorate that doesn't really know the flaws, doesn't know this proposal well enough to know how flawed it is. It's sort of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They're in a throw the bums out mood. The electorate is, and so they know that, and that's why they are insisting that this vote take place this fall. Mike and I, in early June, we begged these people. We begged them, let's do this right. Let's slow the process down. Let's do it right. That can only redound to the good of all of us, and they absolutely positively refuse. They said, this is our chance, and they know this is their only chance to throw out a system and radically change it in one fell swoop, and that's what's going on.